Undercurrent, sponsored by John Hughes in Victoria Park. Choose your station before you choose your program. Absolutely.
Well, next up on Undercurrent, possibly some good news. Sarah Miller reports that all the financial doom and gloom we have been hearing about may indeed not be true.
It's an uncertain time for our economy at the moment, with the European markets in trouble. The Reserve Bank Governor Glenn Stevens referred to our nation's financial situation as the glass being half full, which to most Australians sounds rather unsettling.
Well, certainly there's a lot of pessimism around, isn't it? Every time you pick up the newspaper or hear anything on the media, it's always about the bad goings on in Europe.
Now everyone still has the GFC still fresh in their minds. So what we find is that the media love to focus still on the negative news, and people love to still read the negative news.
The media have their role, and that is to highlight the possibilities, and so I think there's a lot of focus on worst case scenarios. Whether it ever eventuates to that degree, we're yet to see.
The European Union is the second largest economic bloc in the world after the US, and it's a major customer for countries like China as well as the US, and certainly we're very dependent on China for our export markets, and China in turn is dependent on the Europeans to a significant degree for their export markets.
Now, if the Europeans struggle, then obviously China might follow, which then affects our markets as well. The biggest thing is Spain is our concern at the moment. Now, Spain, if something does happen, will affect our markets, but then the biggest concern is now China, and really we need to watch China.
And so we're living in a globalised, interconnected world. So what's happening elsewhere is certainly going to impact on us.
We often hear the term two-speed economy. Lucky for us here in WA, our economy continues to boom, thanks to our growing mining industry. But for those not in the mining sector, what do these uncertain times mean?
First of all, we're seeing a higher currency, and that's making it very difficult for some of the manufacturing and service industries in the eastern states primarily to export. The higher currency makes them less competitive, and so we're seeing areas like tourism, education, retail really suffering.
And over in Sydney, which is mainly a tourism-based industry and financial industry, what we're finding is they're really struggling at the moment. You can just go over to Sydney and feel the market sentiment's completely different over there.
There's a skills shortage in some of the eastern states as people are being attracted over to the mining states. And so, generally, some of the states are not faring as well. So, we do have this two-speed situation.
I think what will happen is over the next 18 months, we're going to find that things will stabilise in the European markets. I think the Greece situation is just going to steady, which is good. And look, I think we just need to really wait to see the news that comes out of China, because really, if we can focus on China and make sure that that they're producing good numbers, then we're going to be fine here.
Look, I think we've just got to realise we are the lucky country here. We are doing a lot better than anywhere else in the world. But that doesn't mean we can be complacent, If you looked at the state budget today, you don't get an accurate reflection of the state finances. I think in the current market, that is very dangerous, and it will start to, when people realise that around the rest of the world, it will start to, I think, cause impacts for the state government.
She said, do you come from a land down under? Women go and men wonder. Can't you hear the thunder? You better run, you better take cover.
Well, for for most of us, we like our relationships to be exclusive, but not everybody sees it that way. Well, next up on Undercurrent, Emily Baker interviews a couple who view things quite differently.
I'm Kitty.
I'm Chris.
And we're in a polyamorous relationship, which means that we have multiple committed, loving relationships with different people.
A whole rainbow of people.
In Australia, polygamy is illegal. However, there is no law stopping polyamory.
It is about love and respecting your partner, and it's, for all intents and purposes, exactly the same as any other relationship. You know, we fight and we have our issues, and we operate very much the same as any other couple, except that, you know, there's a few other people involved, and sometimes that might take a little extra negotiation, you know, just a bit more communication, but.
At other times, it makes us an even stronger emotional unit.
Yeah.
Like any other relationship, polyamorous couples have to work to overcome certain issues.
It is clear that the more you divide love, the more you weaken it. How then can we call this love if it contributes to a lack of self-esteem, when self-esteem is supposed to result from other people caring about you?
Before you talked a bit about jealousy and envy, things that might draw people who could be interested in a polyamorous relationship just away from it. How do you deal with these sort of emotions?
Questions I ask individual people is, well, is jealousy really something that's serving you well, or is it a problem in other areas of your life as well? Look, I've spoken to people that have gone, no, look, jealousy is a good thing because that's how I know my lover really loves me, because they're jealous about other people. Well, that's an interesting take. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it's certainly an interesting point of view, because generally the emotion of jealousy builds up tension and it builds up stresses that are not necessarily a good thing, versus perhaps those of us that sit there and go, well, there's really nothing to be jealous about.
When you enter into a polyamorous relationship, you almost have an obligation to become a kind of superhuman that is going to deny your most fundamental fears. There is nothing wrong with being terrified at losing the precious, precious thing of having somebody utterly and totally devoted to you.
There's a concept of polyfidelity, and that is that you are true to your partners.
Every single one of them.
Every single one of them. You don't stuff them around. You don't emotionally blackmail them.
Basically,
these
it's
are
mass
people
honesty.
that you're with because you love them. So behave like it.
Love is demanding, folks, and given the negative side effects when a man divides his attention between several wives, it is clear that the more you divide love, the more you weaken it. How then can we call this love if it contributes to a lack of self-esteem, when self-esteem is supposed to result from other people caring about you?
People assume that love is something that you only have so much of. And it's like you carry around your love in a bucket. And you've got this one bucket full of love, and if you give that love to too many people, then
it runs out.
You've run out of love.
Yeah.
And it's really not like that. The more care and dedication that you give to the people around you, the more you get back.
Polyamory might give you the opportunity to be honest about your inability to make a decision and settle, but it doesn't make you superior to those who stay and commit themselves to overcoming the challenges of a holistic devotion to one person.
I'm happy that people are talking about it, because, you know, we want that social recognition that we have a perfectly normal relationship, but I don't see that it's anyone else's.
In the sense that every relationship is unique.
Yeah, but I don't really see how it's anyone else's place to say this is a good relationship, this is a bad relationship. As long as it's consenting, as long as it's consenting adults, don't give a damn.
With polyamory slowly creeping into mainstream society, perhaps it is time for legislation to recognise this way of life. This is Emily Baker for Undercurrent.
Well, in sports circles here in Western Australia, it's been the hottest topic this week. The proposed new NRL team, the West Coast Pirates. Well, next up, Mr. Sports himself, Nick Hayes, finds out more.
We see the NRL team as important. Since 1999, we've never been recently released our 2020 edition for the NRL slip away. In 2007, we built rugby league back to a level where we thought that we could start looking at a bid for the NRL. That includes a strong growth the local rugby league, but it also includes the potential for an NRL side.
Lynette, congratulations. The announcement of the name. The inspiration behind West Coast Pirates, where did it come from?
Well, we wanted something that was fun, that would engage older people and younger people, and a move from Perth to West Coast. It means that, you know, that 64,000 people a year who move from the eastern states to WA could be a part of a successful NRL franchise.
Your position on the board, what are you looking to bring to the table?
Probably two things, a bit more of a strategic focus. I'm really passionate about growing the game in Western Australia, and making sure that the structures are there for the long term rather than the short term, and also some community development.
What's the likely success of the West Coast Pirates getting there in 2015?
Well, Nick, you never know, but you know, we're in with a chance just like everybody else, so now it's just a matter of waiting for the bid tenders, or the calls for bid tenders.
And the logo's got a very Warner Brothers feel about it, but I don't think that's just by chance.
Well, perhaps not, but we think it's pretty engaging, it's pretty now, and it compares pretty well when you put it against some of the other teams' logos.
We want to build a brand, and we're confident we've got the makings of a brand that will cut through, will be a brand that West Australians can be very, very proud of, and a brand that will really spearhead the ongoing development of rugby league in the state of Western Australia.
We're very excited. I mean, I woke up this morning very nervous, but now excited. We've been sitting on this for this phase for a couple of months, but obviously for a couple of years. But I was really happy to get this out in the public domain today.
Can the Pirates do something similar to the Melbourne Storm, be successful in its early years?
I think we can be very successful. If you have a look at their first premiership, I believe that was the Reds. Yeah, that's where the bulk of the players went. We've got some interest from players and coaches, but until we can make an announcement, but I think we can attract some marquee players. Success on the field is only as good as success in your management structure. So we're targeting, probably the first 5 years to be successful. Year one, I don't want to make any promises. I just want to make sure that people can say, I went to the rugby league, I was really excited, isn't this great for the state? That's the first step.
Tony Sage was mentioned in the press conference there as the alternative bid. What is it that WARL brings to the table that Tony doesn't have?
Structure. It's probably in one word, but we've actually got our 2020 vision. We've got a structure that comes from the 7-year-olds right through to the elite player. And I don't think you can actually have a proper club that doesn't have that development structure within it.
We think we're going to get there in 2015?
Fingers crossed. It's all in the hands of the Commission and how they see their strategic plan for the game unfolding over coming years.
Now, any suggestion on the number one ticket holder? Would you be going after a Johnny Depp like?
It's funny, we have actually made approaches down that path, so we'll wait and see. But you're right on the money there, so we'll see how we go. But yes, when you look at the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, which is one of the most successful movie franchises in recent times, it's not a bad fit. But we feel really good about the brand. We believe we'll cut through in a very competitive landscape, and already we're getting very good feedback from the people who are here today. If the general consensus is favourable, then we're off to a pretty good start.
Well done, John.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, that brings us to the end of tonight's episode of Undercurrent. We certainly hope you've enjoyed the content in tonight's show, but if you do have any ideas for stories or even for our Vox Pop segment, we would love for you to let us know. So as always, you can contact us on Facebook, Twitter, or through our website, wtvperth.com.au. Stay warm, and hopefully we'll see you next week for more of the show made just for you here in Western Australia, Undercurrent.
Undercurrent, sponsored by John Hughes in Victoria Park. Choose your station before you choose your program. Absolutely.